My name is Token D Rock here with another stream. Hopefully, all of you had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday, December 5th, 9:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. If you're watching us live, crypto market cap sitting at $864 billion. Bitcoin dominance 38.3%. ETH dominance 18.2%. Bitcoin holding just below, 17,100, above 17K. Sitting at 1271, Binance Coin at 290, Dogecoin at 10.27 cents, Cardano 32.2 cents, Matic 92.06 cents, Polkadot 558, Chainlink 741, Cosmos 1029, Algo at 24 cents. Overall, the market is a little bit up from where we were just a few days ago. We have the stock market taking a little bit of a hit today, down roughly 0.84% or roughly 290 0.86 points. We may be topping out here. There's a lot of concerns between banks having issues and such. So we may the whole thing in China is actually screwing things up a bit more than they need to be. So may see a crash of some sort here in the cards in the next month or two. Market sentiment with Bitcoin obviously is down for the day at least, or down roughly $300, so to speak. Here we can see that we fell down here in the past few hours. We were trading right around 17,300, and now and then we crashed ultimately right above 17K. Trying to see if the bulls put in some support right here, if that support holds. Taking a look at the daily chart, we can see that Bitcoin kind of is retesting these lines of support back here, or trying to get back to these lines of support that had held out for a few weeks between roughly August and early November, ultimately capitulating and breaking to the downside. Could probably see a bear flag being formed here pretty soon. Ultimately, I think things are going to go down, but that's not financial advice, just my opinion. Taking a look at the DXY, the dollar is looks to have found some support above 104.1 roughly, and it looks to be trending upwards. But is this just another little break to the upside before going down lower? Again, if this trends upwards, stocks and crypto will be decimated as a result. If this continues to break lower, we will see stocks and crypto have a rally. Could see, if this breaks lower, we could see potentially a little Santa Claus rally, as they call it, rally right around Christmas time. But ultimately, we are just putting things in perspective. We are more or less uh, riding off the lower highs that were put in back in June, um, before things really started taking off, going into July and August, and then into the end of September, where it looks like the DXY topped out. But again, is this a fake out before we break to the upside, or are we gonna go down lower? Well, we'll see. Head over to Twitter. Got a lot to cover. Um, Aldous Huxley from Brave, in his book Brave New World, says only a large-scale popular movement towards decentralization and self-help can arrest the present tendency towards statism. At present, there is no sign that such a movement will take place. But then Bitcoin became a thing. I actually didn't know about this. Raptor slash actor Donald Glover was way ahead of his time on why Bitcoin beats gold almost And like I said, he was way ahead of the curve saying this almost a decade ago. Pretty crazy stuff. Being backed by gold seems very old and nostalgic to me. Being back to a Bitcoin, which takes time to actually make, and there's this equation that has to be done that feels realer to me and makes more sense. Pretty interesting take. Pretty wild that he was so ahead of his time. Um, Bitcoin for Freedom says 0.1337. Bitcoin will make you elite. Again, what's the time horizon? Nonetheless, I do think that that amount of Bitcoin will do you some good in the long term. Not telling you when to buy that amount exactly, but just stack little amounts over long periods of time, and you'll surely get there and surpass that amount of Bitcoin. Over 90% of Bitcoin bought on Strike in the month of November was taken off the platform. Good to see more and more people are learning from the recent events and learning not your keys, not your crypto, and learning to uh, manage self custody and managing their own crypto. Bitcoin is outpacing the growth of the internet, so this is showing that essentially Bitcoin and the internet, um, sorry, basically the internet between the years 1997 and 2005, it took them roughly 7.5 years to go from 130 million users to roughly 1 billion. Bitcoin in the span between 2021 and 2025, it's projected that it will um, basically cover that same amount of growth, but in a much shorter time, roughly half the time. So things are looking rather bullish for Bitcoin long term. Just a reminder that less than 1% of Bitcoin usage is associated with crime. So this kind of destroys the narrative by many politicians and governments that, oh, Bitcoin's used for illegal things, it's illicit activities, etc. Avalanche to power Alibaba's cloud infrastructure service is over in Asia, so that's pretty big development. We'll see what comes of this. Bitcoin yearly, why are we surprised? For every three uh, you know green yearly candles, we have one big red one. So why are we so surprised on this taking place? It's hard to believe how free zero point 0.5 Bitcoin will make you. This is ultimately my goal for the year of 2023. My goal is to reach zero point 0.5. Um, by the end of the decade, I want to have two full Bitcoin, but we'll see how things play out. Breaking: Who Exchange has deleted their website. Customers are not able to withdraw their crypto. So is this part of the whole contagion? What's it called? With FTX, does this have to relate to that? Again, if we find out, I'll keep you guys updated on that. Breaking news: the market is only temporary bullish. Don't be fooled. We are still bearish in the long run. Yeah, I think we more or less had a bounce, kind of a dovish bounce from the things that Jerome Powell was saying. A lot of people took that as, oh, the Federal Reserve's about to pivot. It's, market's about to rally, so let's pile into the market, but got to be careful. Things could still go down significantly considering all the macro uncertainties we are dealing with at the moment. Breaking: crypto broker Genesis potential bankruptcy, owes the crypto exchange Gemini roughly 900 million. So does that put Gemini also in the question for insolvency? I don't know. A lot of dominoes are about to fall, in my opinion. So just hold out. Make sure you have some cash on the side because I think things will go significantly lower at some point. Maybe not these next few weeks, but next 3 to 6 months, I think we're gonna get wrecked. I don't use a cold storage. I store it all on Binance because if Binance dies, crypto is dead anyway. Interesting take, true or false? I don't think crypto is dead if Binance falls. I think crypto for the short term will take a heavy beating, a heavy loss. We'll probably see double-digit percentage point drops out of Bitcoin if domino like Binance or Coinbase were to go down. I think we could see the whole market be dragged down. Please confirm a user claims that they spotted Caroline Ellison at Ground Support Cafe on West Broad in Soho, Manhattan at 8:15 a.m. This would mean she's not in Hong Kong and is in New York, not in custody. If you guys don't recall, Caroline Ellison is more or less Sam Bankman-Fried's lover from Alameda Research. She's the CEO over there. In addition to this, Alameda was SBF's personal family office. It was not a hedge fund trading clients' money. It was 90% SBF's plus other friends. Their most successful trade was front-running FTX news on new tokens added to the exchange. Don't tell me SBF didn't know what was going on at Alameda. Yeah, I find it very hard to believe that Sam had no idea what was going on over there when his girlfriend, this chick, was heading it. Like, come on. SBF donating 440 million to not go to jail for stealing 10 plus $billion is one of the highest returns on investment trades of all time. Elon Musk adds to this, that's just the publicly disclosed numbers. Actual support of Democratic elections or Dem candidate elections is probably over 1 billion. The money went somewhere, so where did it go? Yeah, where did it go, Sam? Why don't you tell us? Here we have Maxine Waters, top recipient of Sam Bankman-Fried political donations, is leading the investigation into FTX, and meanwhile telling him how awesome he is on Twitter. Here we have Maxine Waters, largest recipient of this guy, basically said, "We appreciate that you have been candid in your discussions about what happened at FTX. Sam Bankman-Fried, your willingness to talk to the public will help the company's customers, investors, and others. To that end, we would welcome your participation in our hearing on the 13th. These people are snakes, you guys. This lady took money from him, and now she's investigating him. Yeah, I definitely don't see a conflict of interest right there. In other news, the Twitter files were released back on Friday to give you more or less the TLDR. More or less, the government on both sides of the political spectrum was essentially able to to basically give Twitter a list of tweets that they didn't like, and more or less those tweets were deleted from existence. But as time and time goes on, the contributions by party um, continue to go up dramatically by the Democrats, and not to mention Republicans were being suppressed, and conservatives also. Basically, anything that wasn't the establishment narrative that was mainly blue driven was suppressed. If you guys want to have full access to this thread, I would recommend checking the description box. More or less, we basically had the Biden administration at the time. They were, trying to get in power. They basically asked Twitter to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story, and as we all know, had that come out to be true at the time, or had that story broke, essentially, Trump probably would have won the election, because that would have opened up a whole can of worms as to what other effed up shit the Bidens, in particularly in this case, Hunter Biden was doing. Not to mention Joe Biden, because uh, he is mentioned in a lot of the documents and such. He's referred to as the big guy getting his 10% cut of the deal. But yeah, links in the description. Not going to go too much into detail. There's lots of but here's
Biden's secret email. A really fishy story. The Post claims
this was posted, like all these things were coming out back in October of 2020. Basically, the media chalked it up to being Russian and misinformation.
on a laptop computer that was brought to a repair shop in Delaware in the spring of 2019. The FBI is now investigating whether those alleged Hunter Biden emails are actually connected to a larger foreign intelligence operation. They may be related to a foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence operation.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
You say the big lie, enough times, it becomes reality, becomes the truth, becomes the narrative.
Effort described by many intelligence experts as having hallmarks, all the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation
campaign. This is a classic example of the right-wing media.
50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the 4, 5.
Okay, you guys get the idea. A lot of foul play, not only on this guy's part, but also the media's part. How many people are actually listening to the media, taking them for their word? Aaron Mate says the claim that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation was a blatant lie that resulted in blatant censorship. No one is obligated to care about that, but why, especially a journalist who covers disinformation, attack another journalist for exposing the truth? Because they're shit brain journalists. They're not real journalists. They're establishment puppet pieces that'll just toe the line till the day they die. Pardon me. Moving onwards, this is a tweet I sent as then op-ed editor of the New York Post on the day our Hunter Files story was banned in light of Matt Taibbi's latest a hearty FU to all the MSM blue checks who sided with privatized censorship rather than with America's oldest daily newspaper. Look at this. The tweet couldn't be sent. He was just trying to do his job, report things for what they are. And it was clear as day that big tech was essentially trying to suppress the Hunter Biden story. Pretty gross shit. Yoel Roth says publicly posting the names and identities of frontline employees involved in content moderation puts them in harm's way and is a fundamentally unacceptable thing to do. Yoel Roth, Twitter's former global head of trust and safety, is losing mind over Elon Musk releasing Twitter files showing political censorship inside the company. Well, Yoel Roth, if you guys are doing the right thing, you have nothing to worry about, by your logic. Twitter servers are running at warp 9. Here we have all the mainstream media trying to stay relevant, saying, "Oh, Twitter's dying." Meanwhile, the Twitter servers are red hot, almost on fire. So basically, that clip that I played for you, apparently Steve Bannon used that clip when starting his show the other day, War Room or whatever. And this guy basically says in response, so what has been the media response to Twittergate? They've admitted nothing. They denied everything. They make counter accusations. But did we really expect actual journalism? I certainly didn't. If it's coming from these, I'm sorry, shit brain puff pieces that they make for Sam Bankman-Fried and George Soros, among many, many other people, Obama, Biden, it's disgusting. They're nothing but establishment, puppets. Four biggest propaganda copes, RE relating to the Twitter files. Hunter Biden is a good boy getting himself together. How dare you mention his laptop? Russian disinformation. Refusal to even mention the subject. Elon is evil. Yeah, classic playbooks. Classic plays out of the left playbook. Now proven, Vijaya Gad had more interference in the U.S. election than Russia ever did. Who would have ever thought that? I definitely didn't see that coming. Definitely did not have that on my bingo card for 2022. Twitter suspended everyone who claimed the 2020 election was rigged because they were the ones rigging it. narrative is getting spicy. Of course, Donald Trump has to have his 2 cents and say what he thinks of the issue. He says, so with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception, working closely with big tech companies, DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? Massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. While I do agree with a lot of what he says, I don't think we can just honestly overturn the election. I think there would be a full blown civil war. I think not that these mistakes don't need to be corrected, but I think we just need to do better. Honestly, if we need to essentially prove to more and more people that foul play like this did occur and does affect elections. So we need to put the safeguards essentially in place to prevent things like this from happening in the future, including the absentee ballots and the mail-in votes and stuff like that. There's a lot of mishap that can occur there. So again, we need to implement more safeguards across the board to prevent foul play. Another damning revelation kind of coming out of the Twitter files, more or less. Here we have Katie Hobbs' office contacting Twitter to have posts removed. So, Democrat candidate who ran the Arizona election censored her political opponents, disrupted election day votes, and then threatened counties with prosecution. They didn't declare her the winner. Yeah, pretty wild stuff. I would need to do more research into this, but it's not looking good for Katie Hobbs. More and more stuff is being revealed about her and the dirty games she plays. RNC research, again, not going to read too much into this, but must read. Joe Biden met with Hunter Biden's business associates at least 16 times. Are these all the same business people that he was dealing with? It doesn't look like it, but it's not looking good for you guys. More and more corruption's coming out. It's coming to surface. Here we have Biden saying we've created 10.5 million jobs since I took office, more than any administration in history at this point in presidency. I'm proud. 750,000 of those jobs are manufacturing jobs. Readers added some context they thought people might want to know. Accurate, 10.5 million jobs since January of 2021. Also accurate, only 1.4 million jobs since January of 2020. How is that possible? Well, 22 million jobs were lost in March and April of 2020, i.e. COVID. We didn't return to pre-COVID employment numbers until April of 2022, which is this year. Also accurate, 12 plus million jobs in 8 months pre-Biden. So you can't take all the credit, Sleepy Joe. Hate to break it to you, buddy. Meanwhile, Sleepy Joe and his son Hunter Biden have business deals over in Ukraine. Could it be fueling this entanglement that we find ourselves trying to support Ukraine? A lot of people are coming after Kanye West and all the things he's said. Again, whether you agree or disagree with what he has to say, he has the right to say it. I'm not justifying anything he's saying, but all these warnings about anti-Semitism are totally sincere, because the same warnings were issued when Azov Regiment fighters did a lobbying tour across the U.S. 2 months ago, brandishing literal NAZI insignias. They raised money and met with members of Congress. Oh, wait. Isn't that weird? In other news, Zelensky announced that he's directed lawmakers to work toward banning the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. when you ban churches and your political opposition, i.e., news stations that dare to question you, you aren't the good guy. It's shameful the U.S. continues to fund him. In other news, as the conspiracy realists have been saying all along, once governments are able to control cars, they will demand the power to do so. Electric cars can be limited, monitored, controlled, and switched off remotely. Restrictions will be made for our health, safety, and reduced carbon emissions. We will no longer be able to choose where we go, how fast, when we drive. This will take the freedom and fun out of driving. Change car ownership. Writings on the wall. Do you guys really want an EV? I'm not saying I'm totally opposed to owning one, but it's going to be some time before I ever buy one. Did you know there's a shadow bank that oversees $21 trillion of the world's money? It has a dominating stake in every S&P 500 company. It directs trillions for the Fed, central banks, and government treasuries. Global financial ecosystem is ruled by this one company, and that company is BlackRock. If you guys and if you guys know anything about Larry Fink and BlackRock, they're very pro ESG regulation stuff, which essentially is social credit score, kind of from that episode of Black Mirror, where your score gets raised or lowered depending on how you behave in the societal context and stuff like that. If you're basically a good little sheep, your score goes up. If you're a black sheep and don't always obey the rules, you're going to have a significantly lower score, which means you won't have access to certain parts of society, certain amenities, certain facilities, etc. It's rather disgusting, but that's kind of where things are headed, and they're kind of about it. So be on the watch out, be careful. Disabled Canadian Army veteran Paralympian blasts government for offering to euthanize her when she complained about how long it was taking to install stair lift at her home. These people are disgusting. This person served their country, and they were simply complaining about how long it was taking for people to install the stair lift at her house. Well, all they told her is basically, oh, you could have you could partake in assisted suicide. Pardon me. It's like, what? Are these people insane? Moments ago, woman march in Toronto, Canada, against Justin Trudeau. The 8-year honeymoon is over, Justin. These people are fed up with your policies, your authoritarian policies. In other news, we have Apple's moving out of China. Looks to be they're making plans to move production out of China, burned by COVID lockdowns and worker protests. Foxconn plans. iPhone maker is looking to diversify the supply chain that has powered its growth. It's getting cold in China, yet people have to line up in the snow for their daily PCR tests to keep their QR code green. How many people will die from the flu this year from this crazy COVID zero policy? Here in China, we have here's another clip coming out of China. Hazmat wearing health officials in Huangzhou city are forcibly removing residents from their homes to detain them in quarantine camps. So apparently some of the footage that I did show the other day isn't entirely regarding COVID mandates and lockdowns. Some of them were protests surrounding the Foxconn facility, where workers weren't being paid adequately like they were claimed to be paid once the work week was done. That's kind of what was stemming some of the protests, but there are people in China that are fed up with the rules and regulations, the COVID zero policy nonsense. This is another clip out of China. This is at Shanghai train station. People need to take a PCR test to go out. Otherwise, their QR code will automatically turn to yellow and they can't have access to supermarkets, restaurants, hotels, and transportation. Again, is this a reality/future for the West coming down the pipeline? Only time will tell, but we need to be careful when the government's telling us to lock down again. How much more evidence do you need? Scientists who worked at Wuhan lab says COVID was a man-made is a man-made virus. Andrew Huff said COVID leaked from the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China 2 years ago and blamed authorities for the biggest U.S. intelligence failure. Pretty crazy stuff. I need to do a little more digging on this story, but if true, that's yeah. What more evidence do you need? I don't believe that COVID came from a wet market. I think that's just a cover story. What they want you to believe. Anyways, Netherlands has something going on regarding the World Economic Forum, ESG nonsense. Basically, they're trying to limit how much carbon can be used. How much nitrates can be used because apparently nitrates are really bad for the environment. Dutch government right now is threatening to buy up and shut down 3,000 farms that meet EU net zero targets for carbon. Communities are showing solidarity to farmers by starting food cooperatives and farmers markets to buy direct from local farms. So good to see the citizens stepping up and making things happen outside of the government and regulation oversight. Very cool to see that happen. Fed's Evans says we are likely to have a slightly higher peak to Fed policy rate even as we slow the pace of rate hikes. So is this hinting at maybe a 75, maybe 100 base point rate hike for the month of December? I don't know. I think you can kind of interpret this, but we'll see. Fed is about to move the goalposts on inflation from 2 to 5% in 2023. They don't want to acknowledge that we live in a world structurally higher rates and prices, but it's only their grace. That's their only graceful out. So essentially, Federal Reserve, if they continue with the rate hikes the way they're doing it, 50, 75 base points every month or two, we will go probably into full-blown depression, you guys. And that is why people like Mike Alfred here are kind of more or less speculating that the Federal Reserve will basically shift their goalposts of where they want inflation to be. Will it be all the way up to 5%? I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to maybe move the goalposts from 2 to 3% or maybe even 2 to 4%. Again, so that way they don't have to rate hike into oblivion, and that way the economy doesn't go into full-on depression. But again, just speculation. Inflation, what inflation? Look at this price of these cooking pans. You can see that the price literally doubled in span of 2 years or 2.5 years. Pretty crazy stuff. America has just waged a war on BlackRock and the ESG movement. Is the United States opting out of the global ESG movement by being pushed by the global lead and actively bankrupting the Great Reset agenda. A thread, well, what is ESG and where does it come from? Environmental, social, and governance. Is a standard that tells investors whether a company is ESG friendly or not. Burning fossil fuels is deemed bad for the environment, so oil and gas companies receive a bad ESG score. TLDR of ESG, central planners love ESG because it gives them enormous control over how the private sector operates. Central banks already control the money. NGOs like the World Economic Forum and UN now want to control the food and energy supply to gain absolute control over us in the world. Despite its utopian promises, ESG always ends in disaster. Look at Sri Lanka. They were the poster child for ESG, boasting a 98 out of 100 ESG-friendly score. Prime Minister even published an article on the World Economic Forum's website in 2018 announcing how he'd make his country rich by 2025. How is Sri Lanka doing in 2022? Over 110% inflation, food and energy shortages, protests, and civil unrest. It looks like basically the ESG model is very much basically sends your country down the drain economically. But I'll leave you guys with this. So more or less, the way they will achieve their great reset movement, the way they're going to wage wars is by the means of climate lockdowns. Here we have Oxfordshire County Council passing a climate lockdown trial to begin in 2024. Essentially, the world elites are already telling you how to prevent the world from going up into flames via climate change. We all need to make a collective effort to stop using planes, to stop eating meat, stop doing X, Y, and Z. Meanwhile, they more or less get to do those very activities with their private jets, their private events, etc. Basically, rules for you, but not for me. Bunch of hypocritical nonsense. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, and notification bell to be notified when we go live next. I know today's video is a bit long, but there's a lot to cover because it is Monday and we had a whole weekend's worth of material to discuss. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Like I said, please share the content. I will see you guys all tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. Central Standard Time.